On this week's episode of the Nerf Report, the Future Games Show Spring Showcase gave us our first look at Remedy's long-awaited first-person shooter. We got a horror game starring a talking chimp and a medieval combat simulator filled with airstrikes, RPGs, Chevy trucks, and much more. Xbox accidentally leaked their upcoming plans to integrate Steam games across the platform, and we dive into our game of the week, Assassin's Creed Shadows, all of this and a ton of nonsense on this week's episode of the Nerf Report.
Are you listening?
Strangers from distant lands and friends of old, you've been summoned to another episode of the Nerf Report. Thank you again for joining us. Shout out to those of you listening on the audio world. We obviously have the show now available on Apple Podcasts. It's available on Spotify. It's available on YouTube. Anywhere you want to go, the Nerf Report can go with you. And, I'm not throwing it out there. I'm not trying to suggest how you listen to the show, but I know it would warm my heart to know that there are gamers out there trying to get their platinums, trying to get that last achievement in the video game, and they just got us on while they're gaming. Maybe doing some missions in Call of Duty, maybe trying to hit some things in Breath of the Wild, and you're just like, all right, let's put this on. And look, I understand. That is a very coveted place to be as far as podcasts go. So if you chose us, if you chose the Nerf Report to be that for you, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Big week for me. I was out in Houston, Texas this week, hanging out with some coworkers, hanging out with some friends, eating delicious food. I always say Austin has great food, but Houston, don't sleep on Houston. Houston has some absolutely great food in that city. But I did get to play a new video game. My friends invited me to play a game called Repo. Never heard of it. They called me. They're like, dude, have you seen Repo? And I was like, don't know what that is. And they're like, hey, you got to check this out. And at first I was like, I want to be playing a game where I'm like driving a truck and repossessing cars. Like that doesn't sound fun. There's no way that that's a fun video game. Turns out that's not what the game is at all. So if you haven't seen it, we'll pull it up right here. Repo is a horror multiplayer video game where you play as these like colorful little like trash collectors, and you're going into these abandoned buildings and you're picking up items, and each item has value, and you've got to collect enough value to kind of hit the goal of the level. But while you're doing that, there's monsters and ghosts and blind men with shotguns chasing you around the building, so you got to be quiet. But you also have to communicate with your friends to be like, we got the money, let's get out of here. Hands down. And I look, I know the year is just starting right now, but I think it's safe to say this might be the funniest game I have played in the last like year and a half. There were so many moments in this game that I just laughed. At one point, I got killed, and the guy with the shotgun, he like hears sound, and that's how he like finds where you at. I didn't say a single word. The dude just shot me, and then like I got brought back to life, and literally my teammate didn't tell me that the dude was still in the room and he was reviving me, and I got revived, and I was like, dude, this is some BS. And then the moment I said that, dude turns around and just blows me to pieces. Absolutely great game. The monsters in it also add a really cool level of effect. Like you've got the guy with the blind shotgun man, which is cool. You got these really crazy like ducks, like robotic ducks that chase you around, that if you touch them, they kill you. There's like a sorrowful like ghost that goes around. There's like creepy spider guys that chase through. It's a great game. I think it's like $9.99 on Steam, so it's definitely worth checking out if you haven't picked out something. But if you do get the chance, please sound off in the comment section what you thought of Repo. I loved it. I thought it was a great game. But let's talk about the games that launched this week. Yeah, very large lineup of video games. On Tuesday, March 18th, the first game to launch this week was Rainbreaker. I knew nothing of this game. I had to look it up. It looks cool. I think that this looks like a very solid experience. But as far as like what the big game was this week, I don't even think that this began to touch it. So nothing came out on Wednesday. Thursday was the next big day, March 20th. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition launched on the Switch. Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 Complete Edition came out. And man, I know we talked a little bit about like ages of mythology, but Roller Coaster Tycoon was another one of those games that like you think of your childhood, that was the game. I think, I don't know if everybody did this, but like the cheat I had with Roller Coaster Tycoon was like I would hang out at the entrance and I would look into the pockets of the people that were coming to the park, and I'd raise my ticket prices depending on if they came with a lot of cash or if they came with like a little cash. So like a dude would walk up and he's got $20. I'm like, all right, tickets are $15. That way he has $5 to spend in the park. I'm not trying to be greedy. But if you got like Scrooge McDuck coming in with a bunch of money bags, Ticket price is $999. He didn't complain. He came in the park. He bought food. He bought beverages. He bought everything. But I have some very good memories. And then when the people in Roller Coaster Tycoon like complain and they're like, this park sucks or there's not enough shade, I would always like lift them up and then like put them on an island where they couldn't escape. And I was like, I don't want this getting out. I don't want other people to know that there's no shade. We got to get rid of the dissenters. Our park is the greatest park. And anyone who disagrees, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, a little fascist, a little concerning that was the way I was playing Roller Coaster Tycoon. And I think that should like eliminate me from getting into politics or getting into leadership. In fact, maybe that's what we do. Instead of presidential elections here in America, let's see how they play Roller Coaster Tycoon. And that's what we judge their ability to be president. But anyway, Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, it's out right now. Rendering Ranger R2 Rewind also launched on Thursday, but I think the biggest game this week, easily kind of, not to use a pun, but it shadowed all of these. Assassin's Creed Shadow, Ubisoft's latest chapter of the Assassin's Creed franchise, launched this week on March 20th, and it's our game of the week, so we'll obviously be diving into that. And then on Friday, March 21st, a game called Urban Jungle. It sounds cooler than what I found out it was about. I'm not trying to shame the developer. It's just not for me. I heard Urban Jungle, and I'm like, oh, that could be fun. It's a game about cats. So if you love cats, check it out. The other game was Bleach, Rebirth of Souls, and then Atelier Yuma, the Alchemist of Memories and the Envision Land, which, dear God, that is the longest name for a video game that I have ever seen. And the thing is, it's guaranteed to get longer. Because if you look at any of these like JRPG or like these Asian video games that come out in a year, I guarantee you it's going to be titled Atelier Yuma, the Alchemist of Memories and the Envision Land Definitive Deluxe Extreme Edition. And then like after that, they'll be like Super Atelier Yuma, the Alchemist of Memories and the Envision Land Deluxe Edition. Like just call the game. Just Atelier 2. I think we would all be fine. But anyway, those are the games that launched this week. As always, sound off in the comment section what you're playing, what you picked up this week. Are you playing Assassin's Creed Shadow, or are you diving back into Roller Coaster Tycoon? Or maybe, hey, no judgment here, maybe you're playing Urban Jungle. Sound off, let us know what you're hitting up. And before we dive into our game of the week, we obviously have to talk about some of the bigger or smaller stories that came out this week, like a story that broke the moment we hit publish on last week's episode. In case you missed it, PlayStation kind of got in trouble. They got their hands slapped by the video game industry. There was an AI video that leaked of an AI Aloy, and it was a person communicating with Aloy from Horizon Forbidden West. And essentially what came out is that PlayStation has this technology and they're kind of working on it behind the scenes. And, you have Aloy standing there and I can be like, hey, Aloy, good to see you. What you have for breakfast? And Aloy would come back and be like, I had breakfast above the mountains. And it's a super cool technology. I think it's massive for the world of gaming. Essentially, the demo just used OpenAI's Whisper for speech to text, Llama 3 and GPT-4 for recognition, and then Sony has an internal AI hardware for speech generation, which allowed you to like go in here and communicate directly with Aloy as if they were like on a Zoom call or as if they could like they were another player. And I think that's huge for the world of gaming, because when you see it and you're like, oh, that's scary, but then you're like, hold up. How many times have I been frustrated playing an RPG that I go into a pub and I'm like, quest bringer, give me a quest. And then the menu pops up and it's like the same 4 prompts every single time. Imagine the world of gaming where this technology exists. Like when I saw this video, this was the first time since the PlayStation 5 came out that I'm like, oh my God, this is next gen. This is what the future of gaming is going to look like. We're going to get to a point where you can walk up to any NPC in a game and communicate with them, and we won't be able to distinguish the difference between a non-playable character and then another player playing across the world. Like, again, we talked about the quest bringer. Imagine walking up to the bartender and you go, hey, sir, how you doing? And not only is he communicating you in real time back and forth like an actual conversation, but they also remember the previous conversations. That is where this technology is going to get wild. And I understand some people are upset. I understand not a lot of people like this, but for me, I'm intrigued. I would like to see this continue, and I'd like to see it put into more video games. But there were a couple people who were upset by this, rightfully so. Ashley Birch, the voice actress of Aloy, came out, and she's just like, it's a little concerning, right? Respectfully, I totally agree with her. If you're not aware, the voice actors union, I think it's SAG-AFTRA, they are on strike right now, and they've been on strike for the last 12 months. So to see like your employers come out with something that's completely replacing you, that's concerning to anybody. And I think that's the way that AI is progressing. Any person, including me on this show, is eventually going to get replaced by artificial intelligence, and there will be way more attractive AI models hosting the Nerf Report one day. But, that's the side that I feel like we've got to find this happy medium, because as a gamer, I'm like, dude, this technology's sick. I can't wait to see this integrated with gaming. But at the same time, we have to find a medium where it doesn't just flip the industry on the head. And we have like thousands of people that are like completely out of job. And this is where it becomes kind of tricky, because I don't like when people basically say like, hey, this is unacceptable, we should never have this technology. But it's just like, hey, I'm sure there were people when the automobile came out that were like, I'm raising horses and you're ruining it. So it's that weird balance of like, is this just the future of technology as it progresses? Or is this something that we should really be concerned about because it's going to impact everything? But when it's painted like this, I can't help but get excited. I can't help but love the idea that maybe I'm playing a Batman game and Commissioner Gordon is like talking back and forth with me, and he knows my background, and he knows everything I've done in the story. And the story of the video game for me is a completely different story for someone else because of your interaction with AI. And I think that just sounds fantastic. But and it really, we say next gen, and I mentioned the PlayStation 5, but in a lot of ways, this was kind of the first time that there's been something in video games that I've seen that I'm like, man, this is the future of gaming since like Stadia came out with cloud gaming. Because granted, say what you will about Stadia, but they swung for the fences and really kind of redefined what the next generation of gaming should be. Definitely didn't happen. I think a lot of us who were following Stadia were disappointed with some of the promises that didn't come out, but I'm interested to see where this goes. AI Aloy, AI Nathan Drake, whatever it looks like in the future, I think it has promise and potential, but we have to have some guide rails there. Speaking of Stadia, one more story before we dive into the game of the week. We did see Stadia this week. There was a little bit of a Stadia appearance in the wild. Let's go ahead and pull this up real quick. GDC, the Game Developers Conference, is going on this week, and the folks over at Raccoon Logic bought this billboard. And obviously doesn't say anything Stadia related on it unless you're familiar with the story. But it says, has a Harrison fired you lately? And that is obviously a jab at the former president of Google Stadia, Phil Harrison. I laughed at this. I thought it was very funny. Also kind of like a cheap punch at this point, but whatever. If you're not aware, back in the day, Google Stadia bought Typhoon Studios, who was the creator of the Savage Planet series that we have now. And once the Stadia closed down, they pretty much fired all of those employees. And then those basically employees have created now Raccoon Logic, which are now working on the Return to the Savage Planet. So the fact that this Gunther Harrison, if you will, is now the villain of this game, I think is a jab at Phil Harrison, but I will let the creators of that game be the one to defend that. And just kind of reminded me, I know there's a lot of Stadia fans that still follow this channel. Figured I would take the opportunity to bring this up. And next up, we're going to be talking about our game of the week, Assassin's Creed Shadow. I'm super excited about this video game. But before we do that, let's send a special thank you to those of you who make this show possible. Shout out to the Nerf Gaming News Plus members. Did you know that on average, 12 video game podcasts die every single week? Now, is that a real stat? I don't know. I do this show by myself. We can't hire researchers, but with your support, we can avoid becoming another statistic and keep on making really cool content like this show, along with other cool shows in the future. That's right. By becoming a Nerf Gaming News Plus member, you not only help support independent games media, but you help us create really cool gaming content. Look at that. Another gaming podcast just bit the dust. I guess we should make it 13. It is time to talk about the game of the week. Yeah, this week's game of the week is Assassin's Creed Shadow. There's a lot of conversation going about this game. Since it was announced, there has been a lot of speculation, a lot of hype, a lot of expectations, and a lot of concerns. If you look at the last 3 weeks of gaming, I feel like everybody in conversation about Assassin's Creed Shadow is like, man, is Ubisoft going to be okay? Like, if this game bombs, will Ubisoft be able to survive? Will Assassin's Creed Shadows be the death nail in Ubisoft? Is this what's going to cause Xbox to buy Ubisoft? Is Ubisoft going to be able to respect Japanese culture and release this game? Now, by all accounts, haven't played the game yet. Still going to be diving into it this weekend. I do want to say, based off of everything I'm reading, it does sound like Ubisoft has stuck the landing. Let's pull up the Metacritic score real quick. At the time of filming this video, Assassin's Creed Shadows has an 81 on Metacritic, which I went ahead and wrote down some notes here. An 81 on Metacritic, that is the same score that the original Assassin's Creed video game also got, which is pretty cool to think because I hold that first one very closely. But as far as like the last couple games go, Assassin's Creed Valhalla got an 80, Assassin's Creed Odyssey got an 83, and Assassin's Creed Origins got an 81. So it's sounding like, based off the reviews and the people who got early access to it, it's right around that Odyssey Origins level. As far as like the actual scores go and the reviews that people are giving out, Assassin's Creed Shadow got an 8 out of 10 from IGN. Eurogamer gave it a 9 out of 10. GameSpot gave the game an 8 out of 10. Tech Radar gave it a 9 out of 10. Games Radar Plus gave it a 4 out of 5. And Push Square gave the game an 8 out of 10. Which I don't remember which publication it was, but I do know in like reading and prepping for this episode, one of them was like, this is the best Assassin's Creed video game since Black Flag, which is a statement, man. That is a statement, because Black Flag was such a special version of Assassin's Creed. Like, I look back at that game, granted it was the start of the PlayStation 4 generation, so it's, you know, it's a very special place in my heart. But at the same time, Assassin's Creed Black Flag is a gem. Now, as far as Assassin's Creed Shadows go, the game is now available for PlayStation, Xbox, PC. It's also available on cloud gaming platforms like Amazon Luna and GeForce Now, so definitely check it out. Now, that is obviously everybody else's opinion. Like I said, haven't played the game myself, and I'll have my review a little later on, but I wanted to talk about some of the things that I'm personally excited about, like some of the things I think that I'm reading about, and some of the things that Ubisoft is saying about the game that has me very intrigued. And the first thing is they've got like two intertwining stories. So you got like Nawe, who's like this shinobi, and her gameplay is like stealth. It's very like hide into the shadows. They're able to do parkour, but it's very like stay quiet, kill from the shadows type of gameplay. And then you got Yasuke, who is like this samurai brute, and it's just hack and slash. And some of the kill cams that are coming out of this were like, I saw one where he had this giant stick and he like grabbed the enemy and just like squeezed and broke the dude's back and just dropped him to the ground. And I'm like, oh my God. And what's neat is that like in previous games where you had like dual characters, it was like, do you want to pick the male protagonist or the female protagonist? And the story was the same. Whereas with this, every time you go into a mission with the two of them, it allows you to pick like which games play, which play style do you want going in? Do you want to play as Yasuke and just go to the wall and just hack and slash your way through? And each playstyle has its own different goals and achievements and kind of like a different way of doing the story. So I think that's really unique. The second thing that I think is super cool here is they have an immersive mode. And this reminded me so much of Ghost of Tsushima. So Assassin's Creed Shadow immersive mode will allow characters to basically speak in their native language. And there'll be like English subtitles at the bottom. So if you're a fan of like samurai movies and you're a fan of like old school black and white films, you can put this mode on and have that experience. Personally, I think that makes this game like next level. I'm definitely going to try this out. I think this looks super intriguing and really, really, really nice touch by Ubisoft there. The other thing is that stealth has kind of gotten some cool upgrades here. First one, the eagle that the assassins kind of have in all the video games, that's gone. So basically now you have like this vision where you can basically kind of see through walls, listen closely, and it's like you can tag people, which I think is a nice little touch there. You can also go into water, and there's this clip that I saw where essentially like you go underwater and you go prone, and then like a little bamboo shoot comes out and you're breathing through the bamboo shoot to be like hidden underwater. And I think adding water stealth to like hiding near the bushes is kind of a cool little concept. You can take out the lights. So the actual light versus darkness is a big part of this gameplay, and sticking to the shadows as the shinobi is huge. So you can snuff flames, you can knock down torches, all that type of stuff to make it more shadowy and get through. This also marks the first Ubisoft Assassin's Creed game that has prone. In the past, you could just like crouch. Now you can drop straight to your belly, crawl underneath the building, stay in low grass, and of course, like we said, use a little bamboo shoot in water. Nice little touch there. And then there's like one thing that I'm very intrigued about here, and that's the fact that there's non-lethal takedowns. So you can go into battle and like not have to kill a guy. You can just basically put him to sleep through like a sleeper hold. And I'm wondering how far you can get into the game without killing someone. Like, can you be, granted, the game is called Assassin's Creed, right? Death is in the title. But can you go throughout Assassin's Creed without killing someone? That's something I definitely want to check out here. And then the other final interesting thing that really kind of stood out about this game, it's not something that's cool. It's not something that's like, oh, this is going to sell you on the game. The credits. I read today that the credits are 2 hours long, which one of two thoughts, a lot of people worked on this game. There's a lot of people within inside of Ubisoft, also outside of Ubisoft, some third-party studios that probably helped with the development of this game. But with that, I did want to say congratulations to all of them. With the credit that long, and all the people that did the history of the game, and the writing, and the art, and the graphics, and the mechanics, like all of that. Congratulations on launching this game. I'm definitely not going to be sitting through the 2 hour credits to give each of you your flowers and be like, Jim Johnson, graphic design, good job. Erica Nardini, good job doing all of the scripting. Great job there. I'm not doing that. All I'm doing is standing here and saying, hey, congratulations on launching the game. I think that's a really, really cool touch. But yeah, Assassin's Creed Shadow, it's available right now for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, along with cloud gaming platforms. Sound off in the comment section if you're playing it firsthand. If not, let us know why. What's holding you back from playing it? I'm very intrigued to hear your thoughts here as well. So anyway, that wraps up this week's Game of the Week. Next up, we got to talk about Xbox, because Xbox's plans to integrate Steam PC games leaked this week, and luckily for us, a couple of eagle-eyed gamers were able to notice and capture it before Xbox took it down. And let me say, Xbox took it down fast. Yeah, Microsoft removed the image from the internet, and my sources internally at Xbox have told me that the employee has since been dealt with, which I can only assume manual spreadsheeting, right? They're not using the computer. They've just got printouts of spreadsheets, and they're having to write down the numbers. They're like, no formulas. You got to do the math. Type it out. You write it out. Write down the spreadsheets. Xbox is a very, very tough company. But it is worth noting, there is a new image, right? They didn't just take it down and remove the announcement. There is a brand new image. Let's pull it up. Here is the before, and here is the after. And the new image, right? The image they replaced it with, it's fine. I mean, it's lacking steam, if you will. It's a steamless image. But yeah, I mean, it's okay. But first image, definitely cool. Now, the conversation of Xbox and Steam getting cozied up by the fire has long been speculated by the video game industry. In fact, Xbox has been very open to the idea of like, play whatever games you want. Play them on whatever devices, wherever you want to play them. Just play them through the Xbox ecosystem, please. And the image is here. I mean, they show a mock-up for the future Xbox games library that provides filter options for Steam, along with like other filters for games you own, Game Pass games installed, and then like recently added titles. And it, based off everything I've been reading this week, this UI update has primarily been slated for like the Xbox PC app. So, you know, Steam integrations on that side make a lot more sense than they do on the consoles, which, let me just say, I think is very awesome for the PC, because one of the things that as a console gamer I really don't like about PC gaming is the fact that like when I go to play a game and my friend's like, do you got this game? And I'm like, wait, do I own it in Steam? Do I have it on Epic? Do I have it in the Xbox app? Do I have it on Battle.net? Where is that game? And if Xbox is going to strive to make like a one-stop shop for all PC games where you can integrate the games from all the stores while, you know, benefiting from some of Xbox's like user interfaces, Xbox's ecosystem, along with like achievements and their social features, that could be really cool. However, then like jumping onto like the speculation side, we've also heard a lot of conversation about the new Xbox handheld and the new next-gen console for Xbox, and how essentially those are just going to be computers. So this operating system or this UI that we're seeing here from Xbox, there is a very good chance that this is what the future of the Xbox platform is going to look like. I mean, there's a very near future where we could see Steam video games and Epic Game Store video games running on your Xbox. I mean, look at the image again, right? here it is. The UI is next to consoles, it's next to handhelds, it's next to tablets, and it's even running on a TV, which could be a streaming stick, but the console's directly next to it. So we're going to assume that this is on the console. And look, that's exciting. I love it. Obviously, I think it's dope, but the conversation everyone else seems to be distracted by is PlayStation. Somehow these always go back to PlayStation because PlayStation games are on Steam. And with these changes, does that mean that those Steam games will come to Xbox? Sure. In the future, maybe we see this mock-up from Xbox actually become a reality and Steam games are playable on Xbox consoles. Well, PlayStation games are on Steam. So it's very easy to assume that maybe one day in the future, games like Ghost of Tsushima, God of War, Spider-Man, those now are available to play on Xboxes. The only part of this that I'll say, hey, here's the holdup, is that's going to be strictly to the next-gen console, right? There's no way the Xbox Series X can do this currently, and they would have to change so much about it. So if you're an Xbox Series X owner, that does mean you have to upgrade to the next generation of console to make this happen. But I would also say, like, tamper your excitement there because we all know who PlayStation is. We all know that Sony just loves to pull their pants down and poop on every party that they get the chance to. And, like, there could be a future that Xbox is like, hey, Steam games are now playable on Xbox. And Sony's like, hold up. We're taking our games off of Steam. We're taking them off the Epic Games Store. Now there's a PlayStation Store that you have to buy them. I don't think that that's very likely. I think PlayStation's too far in to do that, but wouldn't put it past them. Wouldn't put it past Sony one bit to do that. But yeah, either way, man, I'm here for this. You know, I think that this looks extremely awesome, and it does really continue to expand the Xbox platform and redefine what an Xbox is. You know, my entire life, an Xbox was a video game console, right? If you were saying you were gaming on an Xbox, it was the physical console underneath your TV. But now, Xbox is evolving from a platform into an ecosystem where literally any device you own, my Chromebook, my smart TV, my phone in my pocket, it can be an Xbox console. And I think that's super cool. That's obviously my opinion. Sound off in the comment section with your thoughts about Xbox integrating Steam games. Do you want to see it happen? And if you haven't done so already, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more Xbox gaming news. And up next, we're diving into the Future Games Showcase and talking about how the Future Games Show Spring Showcase was this week, and it gave us 41 brand new video games. And you know what? We got to talk here. Video game industry, just real quick for a second. The Future Games Show Spring Showcase. We got to do something about these names. The video game industry is so good at making games, and especially making fun games. Like, you guys do such a great job at that. You also do a really good job at creating beautiful works of art. But when it comes to like naming things, I think we could do better, right? Intergalactic the Heretic Prophet. Don't like that name. Future Games Show Spring Showcase, the FGSSS. We need a way better name for that. Maybe let's just call it the Future Games Showcase. Like, just call it that, and we'll say it's a spring update or something. Somebody in the comment section come up with a way better name. But anyway, the Future Games Show Spring Showcase was this week, and it was hosted by Nolan North and Jennifer English. Nolan North, obviously, from Uncharted, he's Nathan Drake, and Jennifer English was from Baldur's Gate 3. And I've seen a lot of chatter from y'all on the internet about these hosts, and I would like to go on the record and defend these guys and say these gigs are extremely tough. You know, oftentimes you show up, you're given the script, and you're saying stand on this mark, and that's what you have to do. They're not able to say, hey, this joke doesn't really land, this joke isn't really something I would say, and I want to point that out because during the show, there were some jokes. They didn't land, but there were some jokes. And maybe if there was an audience, it would have been better, but the jokes didn't land. Kind of like what we do on a day-to-day basis. There's no audience in here. I say things, I think they're funny, and it isn't until we chop it up into a short and put it on YouTube or TikTok to find out if it truly is funny. Kind of like a delayed laugh, right? Like me talking right now and saying something, and then like 5 minutes later, a guy's like, ha, 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 ha. But the other thing that I did take away from this is like these are two voice actors for the video game industry. I got to assume, I didn't watch last year. I think they were maybe the hosts then too, but I have to assume that these two were able to do this because of the strike. And a lot of voice actors are looking for extra work. So if you're a voice actor out there looking for something to do, come on the Nerf Report. We'll bring you on here. Let's talk about some video games. But Nolan North, Jennifer English, they walked us through about 40-something video games. And I'm not talking about all of them. That would be the longest show in the history of Earth, just like this showcase was, 2 hours long. Holy hell. I put it on 2 times speed to get through it so I could actually talk about it here on the show. But I did have some games that really caught my interest. So let's talk about some of my favorites. First up, we have a game called Lost Rift. This is from developer People Can Fly, the folks that made Outriders and Bulletstorm. And essentially, you wake up on an island, you find dead survivors who have other armor and weapons, and you gotta hunt, you gotta craft, you explore, and you survive. The beginning of this trailer was very Ark-like. I thought maybe we were seeing the first clips of Ark 2, but you basically go on the island, and there's no dinosaurs from what I saw. It seemed like just normal creatures, like a wolf. There was a giant ape that you got to fight, which I assume maybe is the end boss of it, but all assumptions here, open world survival video game, very Ark-like. Lost Rift looks very cool, and it's going to be coming to Steam in early access later this year. The next game that came up was Animal Use Protocol, and let's pull the trailer up real quick because this one's really cool. This is a first-person shooter game where you play as a humanoid chimp, and you have a mouse that's on the tip of your gun, and he's basically talking to you to the entire game. Now, we didn't really get to see what the monsters look like and what's chasing you, but it looked like these giant test tube trolls that are going around, experiments that went wild. And there's tons of horror. This is a very darkly lit game. You've got a flashlight going through. There's puzzle mechanics to solve things. You obviously got the inventory management. This game is coming from Brotherhood Games. The only downside I have, no release date, just said coming soon. Again, looks super dope. Next up, Onimusha 2 Samurai's Destiny Remaster. This one's coming from Capcom. Again, we talked about this before on the show. The game looks really dope, but one thing they did talk about that I thought was super cool is this game will have a hell mode where, most times they have insane modes or grounded modes, but hell mode in this game will essentially say if you get touched once, you're dead, which I think based off the gameplay and what we can expect really changes this. Anyway, Onimusha 2 will be launching on May 23rd for PC and consoles. We also had a game called I Hate This Place, which is actually based off a really good comic by Kyle Starks called I Hate This Place. This is an isometric survival video game from Broken Mirror Games, and this game is giving me super classic horror video game vibes. The visuals look super dope. I love the color schemes here. Again, it's another flashlight-driven game where it's shadows around you and you can only see what's in front of you based off the flashlight. The monsters look super dope. And again, that classic Resident Evil, over-your-shoulder kind of camera angle. It's a level of fear where you're I can't control it. I'm not in control of my own scenario. Anyway, the game looks dope. It's coming out this year for PC. We will definitely be checking it out. Then we came to Revenge of the Savage Planet, which, man, I had such high expectations for this trailer, and I might offend some people. This was the worst trailer of the entire event. I think we saw 10% of it was gameplay, and I don't know how much money that this developer spent to be a part of this event and to create this trailer, but it had to have been a loss. And there was a dude who was jumping around, showing off his grill and showing off all this other cool stuff. And it just fit into that overly corporate style of Savage Planet, but very minimal gameplay. Didn't really show me why I want to play the second game. It's just a bummer, man. When you're going out there and you're taking swings at Phil Harrison, the former president of Stadia, on billboards, I expect you to swing just as hard on these trailers. And this one was a disappointment. But anyway, Return to the Savage Planet is launching on consoles in May. Next, this game is dope. Right, this is a game that got teased a couple years ago, and I've been keeping a very close eye to it because I think it sounds so cool. Let's talk about Death Ground. This is a multiplayer horror survival video game with dinosaurs. Now, all the footage we're showing here is obviously alpha gameplay, so it's still kind of in a rough state, but this looks incredible. So essentially, this was described as Alien Isolation, but with dinosaurs. So you and your friends are going through these corridors, these abandoned buildings. It's dark, it's scary. You got to flip switches, you got to do tasks, but there's raptors that are chasing you through and they're hunting you, and you've got sensors to see their movements. The game looks dope. This will be a day one purchase for me. Death Ground looks absolutely incredible. Cannot wait to play this with my friends. The next one, I think, was the one that stole the show. This is a game that I saw on TikTok recently, and I have been super intrigued ever since then. Kingmakers, you basically time travel back into the medieval ages, and you're driving a pickup truck into battle, and you're just like mowing down soldiers, and then you get out and you've got like a gun, you got grenade launchers, you got airstrikes, and you're just trying to see how many of these soldiers can you kill. And really, I mean, based off of like the trailer we saw this week, this game reminds me so much of Days Gone's Horde mode, but instead of zombies, we just have like soldiers with swords and spears and shields. Like, I think this is going to be so much fun. And the developer did come out and say there's going to be like thousands of soldiers that are always active. It's not just going to be like when you look at them, they come alive. The battle will progress whether you do anything or not. And every building is destructible. You can play this game with up to 4 of your friends. You can play together. You can play by yourself. But Kingsmaker, I think, is going to be one of those games that is a sleeper hit, and it's going to be Game of the Year. I think that there's a very good... if Grand Theft Auto 6 skips this year, Kingmakers has a very good opportunity to be the Game of the Year this year. But Kingmakers will be coming to PC in 2025. Next up, we got a really cool virtual reality game that I thought was kind of a cool concept. One person has the VR headset on, they're playing the game, and then your spouse or your friend is playing on their phone and kind of walking you through. So the VR player is going into like this electrical facility. They're trying to get in the door and they got things. And then the person on the phone is switching through the manuals to figure out like how to walk you through it. Super cool concept. And then if you fail, the monsters get out and then you obviously die. So Elsewhere Electric, another game my wife and I will probably have to play this year. I think it sounds like a bunch of fun. We also had Neighbors Suburban Warfare, which looks like a really fun, cartoony first-person shooter where basically it's like you have defense fortifications, you have like supers, you've got like these cool battle types, but then like instead of airstrikes, you're calling in like pigeons to poop on your neighbors, and it legit looks like someone took like the Nuketown map and they're like, how can we make this as zany and as crazy as humanly possible? So it looks really cool. Neighbors Suburban Warfare will be launching on April 17th in early access. Then we have Pioneer, which is a stalker style MMO. It's set in an alternate reality. You're going to be fighting machines. You're going to be fighting humans. You got these alien-like mutant zombies and giant creatures. Game looks dope. Definitely going to be checking out Pioneer when it launches for PC in 2025. Finding Frankie is a Five Nights at Freddy's style haunted parkour game show. This literally looks like Five Nights at Freddy's met Fall Guys and they decided to have a baby. The game looks dope. The game looks really fun. It's launching for PCs and consoles on April 15th. Cloudheim. This is a game that really surprised me because this looked like a very grown-up version of Breath of the Wild. So this was developed by Noodle Cat Games. There's different classes, different weapons, so you can like change your gameplay. There's different monsters and enemies to fight. The game looks dope. It's coming to consoles and PCs, which was the other thing that I'm like, oh, cool. We finally have like a Breath of the Wild style game that will be available on PlayStation or on Xbox. So definitely going to be checking this out. No release date. They just gave us the release window of 2025. Another game that piqued my interest was Into the Dead, Our Darkest Days. And this is from Pickpock and Bolt Ray Games. So this is based in Texas, which is one of the reasons why it intrigued me, right? We're based in Texas as well. But it takes place after a zombie apocalypse. And it's this really cool side-scrolling game where like you got these sections and you're jumping through and it's kind of like a maze and then you're trying to like puzzle solve it. This game looks dope. It's launching on April 9th. I'm definitely going to be picking up this game and playing it myself. I think they did a really good job with this game and it looks super cool. Reanimal was also announced during this event. This will be the next game from Tarsier Studios. If that name sounds familiar, these are the folks that do Little Nightmares 1 and 2, and this is just more of what you've expected from that game. So it's basically a horror style of Little Nightmares, but it's a co-op game. You can do couch co-op or you can play with your friends online, and this will be coming to PCs and consoles as well. Now, next up, we got to see a game that we've heard a lot about, but we've seen very, very little. Remedy Entertainment, the studio that basically did Control and Alan Wake, they debuted their first-person shooter game called FBC Firebreak. So this is a first-person shooter game that's set in the Control universe, and based off what we're seeing, it looks like you're fighting off hordes of corrupted with your friends in the basic the Federal Bureau of Control. Like you're running through, and you know you're basically like fighting things. You're trying to like accomplish tasks. The game looks cool. I do have some concerns of like live services and how like Concord worked, and do we really have the space and the interest for more games like this? And do we have the bandwidth among gamers to want to pursue this? I think this is going to be a very interesting story, not just for gamers, but also for Remedy to see if they can kind of gain the interest of gamers when they get ready to launch. And then the final 2 games that came out of this was basically Chronos. This is from Bloober Team, another studio that I hold in very high regard. The world basically ends in the 80s, and this looks very Dead Spacey. This game looks super scary, right up my alley, and I will definitely be checking it out. The game launches in 2025. Again, not a specific release date, just 2025. And then the final game was a remake to Painkiller. Yeah, the 2024 first-person shooter game is coming back, and in the fall of 2025, Saber Interactive will be releasing a brand new version where, if you're not familiar, essentially Painkiller is a game where you get sent to purgatory, and in order to get to heaven, God's like, you need to go fight Satan's army, and that's what we're seeing here. A lot of people in the comments were like, this is Doom, and I'm like, kind of. You're killing demons. Kind of looks like Doom. Kind of the same gameplay, but not Doom. But anyway, yeah, that was the Future Games Show Spring Showcase. A lot of cool games to look forward to this year. Obviously, the ones that intrigue me the most, I think Kingmaker. Is that what we're calling it? Is Kingmaker? Yeah, Kingmakers, I think, is the game that I'm most intrigued about this year. Can't wait to play it. And I'm going to have to reach out to some of these developers to maybe see if we can get them on the show to talk about their games, because all of these, I think, are going to be super solid games for not just PC players, but also for gamers as well. But anyway, that's going to wrap up this week's episode of the Nerf Report. Thank you again so much for hanging out with me this week. As always, sound off in the comment section. What was your favorite part? What game you're playing? And obviously, what was your favorite game that was announced during the Future Games Showcase? Until next time, tell someone you love them, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.